South of Midnight is a game that thoroughly surprised me when I went into this game. It was a game that I wasn't really had on my radar. I saw it be announced in last June of 2024 in the Xbox showcase, and I thought the art style was really cool and potentially the kind of world that they were building, but I didn't really think much of it. I kind of wrote it off. They then brought it into the Xbox Developer Direct in January. Same thing, didn't really think much about it. And then as we were leading up to the release of the thing, and I was kind of like in between games, I wanted something to play, and I was like, you know what? Let's download it. Let's see what it's all about. And yeah, this was a game that was really fun. So if you guys haven't tried it, I will say in short, I recommend it. Go try it out, but let's get into why I feel that way. So South of Midnight is a third-person action-adventure game if you don't already know. It has a more linear style than what has been coming out of recently in terms of like these big open world RPGs. This is more akin to what you would see in kind of like an Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, where you're kind of following this path and this linear story through it. And it's very narrative driven, a lot of cutscenes, and it's really it has a message that it wants to convey to you. And kind of going through and playing this game, it really reminds me a lot of the Xbox and PlayStation 3 era, where you had games like this where it was really kind of like Gears of War or like Halo, where you're really going through this narrative, you're going through the characters, you're playing as a character. And I kind of like that. Not that I dislike open world RPGs and all this other stuff, but sometimes I want to be given a character and see the world through the eyes of that character. Sometimes I don't always want to make my own. I like the idea of just tell me the story through this lens of the game. And yeah, and as somebody, and as I learned about this, as a precursor, I grew up in North Florida. I was raised reading and listening to a bunch of these Southern folk tales in school and like friends' houses and things like that. So this was a genre and kind of a setting that really kind of spoke to me, and I was really interested to kind of dive deeper in, because some of these things you hear a lot of these Southern folk tales if you grow up in that specific area of the country. And it's pretty cool to see a game set in a setting that you don't normally see all the time. This is something that's different. I can't think of honestly another game that kind of has this same setting. So about the story of this game. This story, like I just mentioned, it takes place in the Deep South and is about a girl who's trying to find her mom, who just got recently swept away from a big hurricane that happened. And along the way of trying to find her mother, she discovers that she's a weaver, and she comes across these weapons that only she can use as the weaver. And she's the first weaver to be seen in probably over 100 years. The last one kind of disappeared and no one knew exactly what happened to her, but she was somebody who helped the slaves escape to the north from the south. But basically, as you go along the journey, there's different chapters, and each chapter tells the story of a specific folktale that she comes across on her journey to save her mom. And each folktale kind of talks about, and the general overarching story is people getting so caught up in their grief and never being able to move past it, that it results into them turning into whatever this fictional creature that comes from this specific folktale. So it's almost as if you're learning a bunch of different folktales or Southern folktales in this video game, which I think is pretty cool. So it makes every boss fight specific and unique, and every story specific and unique, to where as you beat one chapter, you're curious to see what the next chapter is going to be and what story they're going to tell next. And each one of these creatures are actually based on real folktales that have been told. Like there's one of a gator that is based off in Florida. I believe the catfish is based off a folktale from Mississippi, and different things like that. Now, one of the big things that really stuck out to me about this game was the visuals and the art style that they decided to go with. And one thing that I did notice as you progress through the story, what you don't realize when you see the trailers or you just watch a little bit of gameplay, is that at first I thought it was just going to be in what seemingly seemed like the bayou of Louisiana. But you actually start to get introduced to different environments that are in the South. So it starts off what seems to be Louisiana and the bayou. Then it takes you to what looks like the Everglades of Florida. And then you go into this very mountainous area, which you might see in like the Appalachians. So I thought that was really interesting and really cool, because I did not expect that. And I like how they kind of, hey, the South is more than, it felt more inclusive to all the different regions of the South instead of just sticking to this one specific area. which I liked a lot. And they did a great job with the landscapes. They look beautiful. The specific art style of the stop motions. I'm somebody who that doesn't really bother, so I like the charm that it had with that. And every single little piece of detail they put into game. And that's one of the things I like about very linear based games, is they do tend to put a little bit more detail. Obviously there is a more open world where they have the capability to do that too, but it's not as common. But with this, I mean, even as something as simple as seeing little bunnies go by as you're running, or all these little details, it's pretty cool. And also too, the audio in this game, I thought this game was very vibey. Like I love the music and how it really added to the atmosphere, and how it changed during gun fights with the bosses or enemies or whatever it might be. And just kind of just going through it, they did a really good job of having the certain vocals match the atmosphere of the game. Because, you know, as anybody, audio is one of the most underrated things in all of media, whether it be movies, TV shows, or games, whatever it might be. It can really add to the environment that you're playing in. So I thought they knocked it out of the park with that. And yeah, just sometimes I'd look around and just be honestly in awe of what's happening in the game, and just how unique it is. And you can tell it's going to be one of those games where when you have these specific art styles, you're going to look back on it maybe even 10 years and be like, you know what, that still holds up. And usually games that have a unique, distinct art style do. Now, one of the big things that everybody's kind of talking about with this game, and one of the major downsides of this game that I would point out as well, is the gameplay. The gameplay is very vanilla. You have a very basic skill tree where you unlock specific move sets and things like that, but it doesn't really add to the level of damage you can do or the level of unique abilities you have. Everything is pretty cookie cutter and simple. You can tell that the main focus of this game was to basically tell you this narrative and give you this story and kind of give you a message of, like I said before, in this, like learning how to move on and move past specific griefs that you might have, that you've experienced, and not letting trauma get the best of you. So each encounter for the most part was pretty much the same. You pretty much face the same enemy types outside the boss fights. Granted, I do like the boss fights. I thought they were unique and interesting, and each one had a different element to how you beat the boss fight. So that was the one plus to the gameplay. But in terms of all the enemies you face along the way, it honestly felt like a chore. And I had more fun just exploring the environments and platforming than I did actually fighting. And to the point where when you get to a zone where like, I'm going to have to fight this, I'm going to have to beat this little arena. It was, like I said, it was kind of like, I didn't look forward to it. I think this game honestly probably would have been better as just being a platformer. Just remove all this mundane combat and just have the fun boss fights in between. Like, I would honestly enjoy that a lot more. I think it would have made the game obviously maybe a little shorter, but it probably would have gave them more time to flesh out more story points, or maybe make each chapter a little bit more detailed if players didn't spend so much time trying to do combat. So that's kind of like one of the things, my one big downside. But for the most part, coming into this game, I was really going here for pretty much the vibe, just kind of like I said, a palate cleanser type of game where, you know, just add to kind of break up the long drawn out super open world RPG type single player games that we're getting recently, or Souls likes that are very difficult. Overall, I do recommend this game. It is a fun game. It's a pretty short game. It's about 12 hours. So like I said, if you're kind of, it's a great game to kind of go in between while you're waiting specific releases. It is on Game Pass. It's not a huge commitment. Like I said, it's a very linear game. So if you're looking for something like that, it does fit into there. Now, this is a game I would probably get on Game Pass. I don't know if I would necessarily spend $40 on this game. This does seem like a game you probably want to catch on sale, or like I said, a great Game Pass game. And I do think in general, Xbox this year has done a great job of kind of filling the gaps in between major releases within Game Pass. And this is one of those. So it's not going to be some major masterpiece going to win Game of the Year, but it's definitely a game that you can enjoy, have some fun time with, enjoy a different setting, kind of have like a different vibe. But once you play it, that's probably pretty much it. There's not a lot of replayability of it. I probably wouldn't replay it, honestly. But for the most part, though, I really enjoyed my time with the game. And especially as somebody who grew up in the South, it really did resonate with me a lot. And yeah, if you guys have played it, let me know down in the comments below. If you enjoyed it, did you like it? Is it in your backlog now to try it out? If so, like I said, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. And if you want to see more content like this, gaming reviews, gaming discussions, news, and things and stuff like that, please follow the channel and hit the notification bell for more content like this. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out, everybody.